The first thing I'd like to do is if everybody goes to their client page. So we have, if you open up your own estate planner, you can, you should be able to see my screen, but you can also, and you might want to minimize that, but if you open up your own estate planner, you'll see a Jonathan Smith in your list of clients. We've added that to everybody as a sample because we're going to run through that. So if everybody can just open up so I hope I don't bore too many of the people who are intermediate users, but it'll be a refresher for you guys. So you'll see Jonathan Smith there in your list of clients. So I just want to go through how you add a spouse to Jonathan because that seems to be an issue for some people. So you can always add new clients by clicking the add button up here and inserting their name and the first name and last name. The email is necessary if you want to send out a questionnaire to them. The spouse client. So let's assume you're acting for can anyone help me open the estate planner? So minimize the Zoom and then open up your Google and see if that doesn't work. So the idea here, so just adding a client, first name, last name. I just want to talk about spouse clients. So assume you're acting for two spouses. Let's say Jonathan and Susan. What you do is you add the first client, Jonathan, in there and add them. Then you go in and you add Susan in there. Now you're going to want to link Susan to Jonathan. So in when you're adding Susan, you'll click spouse client and you'll find the spouse who you're adding and just click on them and they'll be linked together. And that's important so that the family tree is shared, joint assets are shared, you can sync plans, and you're not charged 2 times the price. Well, you guys aren't charged anything right now, but you'd be charged for 2 singles as opposed to a couple. So if we go right now to Jonathan Smith and open up Jonathan Smith as a client, and there's Jonathan Smith. Now, we didn't add Samantha, who's the spouse, in as a client yet. So let's assume, for example, that we forgot to add Samantha, but she is going to be a client. So let's add her. So go back. Remember, her name is Samantha Smith. So go back to the client page and add Samantha Smith as a client. My internet is extremely slow. I hope everybody else's isn't as slow as mine. Or this could be the longest demo in all. So we go add because we want to add Samantha Smith. And eState is smart enough to know that Samantha Smith is the same Samantha Smith, we hope, as Jonathan's spouse. So we add Samantha Smith, and then we click on the spouse client. And then we find the matching client, Jonathan, and click them. And at that point, they'll be linked. So if we go back to Jonathan, you'll see that Samantha is a client as well as Jonathan. Okay, so you can link 2 spouses even if they're created at different times. You just have to spell their names right. So now we've opened up Jonathan's profile for people, and I want to show you a couple of things about adding details. So you can see we built in a little family tree here for you. To add information about the client, Jonathan, you just double click on him and up comes his profile, and you can add in middle names and all of those things, also known as, those will be printed out. Dates of birth are entered by year. You can do it year just the way you type it in, 2000 and 1956. You can type it in there, it'll calculate the age. You can add citizenship, multiple citizenships. So if you want to try that, try clicking on citizenship and then adding a couple of people. Okay. And the other thing to remember is the residency. So let me just show you how I got to that. I had this whole list of things. I scroll down to the bottom and you'll see residency. So if everybody clicks on residency, for him. You have to put in his province, the province, because it's going to calculate probate tax based on his province. And then the city. The city's important because it will populate the will to say Jonathan Smith of the city of Toronto, Ontario, or of Toronto, Ontario. Okay. So I just want to show you that. And I want to add a stepchild. So I want to show you how to do that. So Samantha has a kid from someone else. Okay, so let's everybody add that stepchild. So to add a relative to Samantha, you have to click on Samantha. Now you'll notice, everyone do that, and notice that the blue circle is now around Samantha. That means anybody I add is going to be a relative of Samantha, relative to Samantha. So now I click the add button, and I'm going to add a child. This is to Samantha. Now, the other parent is not Jonathan Smith. So I'm going to click a new parent, and I'm going to say that they're divorced, and select. The first thing that'll pop up is the name of the new parent. So this is the other parent. And I can add as much or as little detail as you want. You don't have to put in all of this information, especially if they're not going to be relevant for the planning, okay? So I'm just going to go that. Now the next thing that pops up automatically is the name of the child. So her child's name is Michaela Jones. She's female, and she's, we can put in her age or her date of birth. Let's put in June. And let's say that she's disabled. So how do we do that? Well, click on special circumstances. So that's at the very bottom, special circumstances. It sure does recognize towns. You can put in anything for city. So special circumstances, let's say she's disabled. So let's put disabled, and let's say physically, and she receives government assistance. Okay. You can click as many of these, and then we're going to add. And the family tree will be reformed there. Okay. And that's how you add people to a person. So if I wanted to add idiot's parents, I'd have to click on idiot, make him blue. Now add a parent to him. And that's how that works. Okay. Has everybody been able to create, anybody having problems creating a person in the family tree? If you are, just flip us a quick note on Zoom, on the chat, and we'll go over. But so far you should now have a family tree that looks similar to this. Okay. So now we're going to turn to the assets page and a couple of things there. So we're going to add certain assets. So if you click on assets and then click assets, let's pick a RRSP. So it's going to be a financial asset. You can either scroll down here and pick it, or you can just type it here, RRSP. Okay, and select. So let's just talk about asset name. This is the name that's going to appear. If you're giving that asset away specifically, it wouldn't apply to RSPs, but if you're giving an RSP, an asset away specifically, and you want it to be called something in the will, that's what you put in the asset name. Okay. You don't have to put in any of this information because, for example, beneficiary doesn't keep track because you may be changing it. So it's just the current beneficiary. You put in the value. Let's say this RRSP is $200,000. So you can do that in the current value. The income tax, it's a manual calculation. So I always just put in half of an RRSP as income tax. So let's do that. Anybody's having problems, just let me know on chat. And the probate tax will be automatically calculated. And it's calculated based on the province of the testator. Ownership is obviously sole for an RSP, and then add. Now let's add a joint asset. So let's go add. Let's talk about the home. So we can just add the home. Okay. So we can put the address. You don't have to put anything in here, but you can. If we're going to deal with the home specifically, we'll probably want to identify the address of the property. So you don't have to put in a city, but let's just say we are. What you do have to put in is the province. Why? Because probate tax is going to be based on the province of the land. So we pick Ontario. Purchase value, you don't have to put that in, but you can. It's just data collection. It's not necessary. The current value, let's assume it's worth $1 million. Okay. Let's put in a mortgage of $100,000. There won't be probate, there won't be income tax if it's a principal residence, so we can just click that off and not put anything in income tax. Let's do the ownership. So you should scroll down to the bottom and click ownership and click sole or the type basically, and that will pull up these 4 options. Click joint. Hopefully everybody's with me. If not, let me know and I'll slow down and go back. Now we just added, thanks to a user who suggested something, is this little add owner button here, because people weren't clear on how to add another co-owner. So we've got Jonathan Smith. By default, the client will automatically be in there. Now we have to add the other owner. And the other owner is Samantha. And she'll be in there. And you could add further owners if you wanted. Then we click the add button to add them to the list of assets. Slow me down if there's anything that doesn't make sense. So let's just have those 2 assets there for now. Okay. Well, one more. Let's do one more. The general. Oh, if you can just turn off your mics.
Turn off your mic. Yeah, I can't find the mic.
There's a mute button on the Zoom call. I think I can mute you. That's good. Bottom left corner, apparently. Okay. So let's add general personal effects. Now, every client, when you add them, starts with general personal effects, so you don't have to add them. But in this case, we added this Jonathan Smith to your portal, so you do. So let's click on general personal effects, select, and you can put in a value. Let's put in $100,000. Okay. Now we have a few assets, and let's say that's all the client has given us at this point. I want to show you about debts. One feature here, you do not have to add the mortgage again. It might not appear in your debts tab, but it's there in the assets tab. So you don't ever have to add any mortgages amounts again in the debts tab. Okay. So far, so good. Any questions? And I'll give everybody a few seconds to get caught up. Anybody have questions about people or assets or debts and how we add those and how we enter information for them, that kind of stuff? Anybody have a question about that? Just type it into the chat or unmic or unmute and speak up. Anybody? So everybody's with me so far? Because now we're going to start the planning. Okay. Great. Okay. So the next thing you would typically do with your client is move to the scenarios tab. That's where you do the will planning. So click on scenarios, and eState knows that Jonathan has a spouse. So all 3 scenarios, surviving spouse, descendants only, and no descendants, all appear. So what I would typically do with a client is I'd start with the surviving spouse scenario. And that means, what does the client want to do if the spouse survives? So we click on that, and this is the planning page for all of the 3 scenarios. The assets are on the left here, and the summary button. So if everybody could click on their summary button, and you'll see that a summary of the assets currently appears. So it tells you what the total assets are. So far, we haven't planned for any joint or designated assets. We haven't made any initial gifts, and we haven't done any planning that would avoid income tax or anything else yet. Okay. So that's typically what I just start with. And then I go back to the assets so that they appear. So everyone click back so that they can see the assets. So then the first thing I typically deal with are the joint and designated assets. So let's do that. And this is what will come up. So everybody click the black bar that says joint and designated assets, and click the add button to add a joint or designated beneficiary. So click add. And now, whenever you see specify beneficiary, you can click on that, and that will add the list of everybody in the family tree. Okay. So in this case, we know that Samantha is the spouse and is the joint owner of the home and the beneficiary of the RSP. So we're going to add Samantha and then click on the check mark to create the box. There we go. So everyone should have a box with Samantha Smith's name under joint and designated assets. And to show the client now what we're doing, so let's say you're my client, I would say, okay, so the RSP you've designated to Samantha Smith. So we'll click on the RSP and we'll drag it and drop it into the box. Okay. So everyone try that, if you could. And then you have that appearing and you should see the asset sitting in the box. Okay. Next, click on the home because it's joint and hold and drag into the box and drop it. Okay. So those two assets are joint or designated. Okay. And now if we go back to the summary, you can show the client that most of the assets are joint and designated. There's still a $100,000 mortgage, but we've got rid of all the probate, almost all the probate tax. You've saved $16,500 worth of probate tax and $100,000 of income tax. Why? Because eState knows that Samantha is a spouse and that there's a rollover for the RRSP. So everybody's. Now, at this point, the client says to me, oh gosh, I forgot. We have a bank account. Okay, no problem. Click on the Assets button to the left, the Assets page, Assets tab, and we're going to add a new asset. So click Add, and we'll make it simple. We'll add bank account, select, and we'll put in $200,000 sitting in the bank account. There's not going to be any income tax on a bank account, so that's fine. Probate tax is calculated. And let's assume it's in just Jonathan's name. So we go add. I'll show you one other feature. Let's do one more asset, and that is private company shares. So assume the person had private company shares, so you can add the asset and then just type in private, and up will come private company shares. Select, and this is the dialog box that comes up. So let's put in the corporation name. So maybe it's whatever you want to do, 123 Ontario Limited. Okay, so that's the corporate name. What I would typically do is then copy it. So I'd highlight it, copy it. I'd insert it into the asset name, just so I can keep track of the assets on when I'm planning for it. So we know which private company we're talking about. So I'll just do that. In the draft itself, it's the corporation name that's going to appear if we're doing multiple wills, not the asset name. So just know that you don't have to put this in, okay? I'm just muting a few people just so that we don't, I'll get to that question in a second. So let's add them as a corporation, and let's say it's $1 million. So we're going to add, you can add in other shareholders' names, et cetera. Let's just say there's $10,000 of income tax that's going to be triggered on the death, and go add. Okay, now we switch back to the scenarios tab. Everybody there, and we were working on the surviving spouse scenario, and we had done joint and designated assets. If there's a beneficiary named, I would still drag them over to show that the client, the effect, the plan that we've done. And if you don't, it will automatically appear in the will as a designation, but you can obviously just delete that if you don't want the designation to appear in the will itself. You can just delete it from the will itself, okay? So we finished joint and designated assets. Now we're going to go to initial gifts. So click on the black bar for initial gifts. Everybody do that. and go back to the asset list, right? We're switching between summary and assets. We want the assets to show up. We're going to click on general personal effects and we're going to drag them in because typically that's what we want. We want a special clause for the personal effects. So we'll add them as an initial gift and the client will be the spouse and we'll go add. So that's going to be an initial gift, right? Now we're into the residue. So we're going to take, for the first example, we're going to take the simplest. The instructions are everything to the surviving spouse, right? Simplest thing, absolutely 100%. So the short way to do that is the macro. So run macro. If everybody clicks on the run macro button in the balance of the estate, so you've clicked on the black bar balance of the estate and you click run macro. These are the standard macros that we've included for everybody. So you should see a whole bunch of these and scroll down till you see spouse absolute entire residue. That's 100% of the spouse absolutely. And you just click on that. And automatically that gift is created. And I'll show you how to create more technical or difficult gifts, but that's how you would do that, okay? Now, if we go back to the summary tab for the client, we can show them that we've actually saved them all of the probate tax. Okay? Sorry, we've saved them all of the income tax. Why? Because it's all going to the spouse. And we've saved most of the probate tax. And now they say to you, but you know what? I've heard this stuff. My accountant tells me I should be doing multiple wills. So you can say, okay, so they may or may not say that, or you want to say that. You want to explain to them. So if you click this button, apply multiple wills planning, you'll see that the probate tax on the private company shares has been eliminated and on the personal effects. Okay. So you can demonstrate to the client the impact of applying multiple wills or not. Okay. Right? Yes, because the shares were worth only $100,000, so you're probably not going to recommend for the $6,000 or whatever it is to save multiple wills, right? $3,000. Okay, so that's how you demonstrate that. Now we move to the next scenario. So you can move either by clicking on the scenarios tab on the left or up here where it says surviving spouse. So let's click on that and go to the next scenario. That is where you have kids alive. So go to descendants only. Likely there won't be any joint or designated assets in this scenario. Initial gifts. Well, we're going to drag the personal effects. So everyone go to initial gifts, drag the personal effects in there, and let's make a gift to all 3 kids. Now, one of them is a stepchild, so they're not going to be part of the definition of children. So we're going to have to add them all in. So I think it was Michaela, and I can't even remember the name. So what happens if we can't remember the names? Well, we have to just go back to the people tab. So you just have to cancel out of there. If the client can't remember who their kids are, or you can't, you can always just go back. It's Cleo, Dave, and Michaela. So we go back to scenarios, descendants only, initial gifts. We're going to drag and drop it. And then we're going to do Cleo. We're going to do, so you just got to click off Dave. And we've got to add Michaela. Because if we use just a class gift, we are, yes, we're recording all of this, by the way. We can't use a class gift because we're including somebody who's not part of the class. Michaela is not a child of Jonathan, so we can't use a class gift there. Okay, that's why we've done it this way. And we go add. So, so then maybe that's all we want to do. Well, let's create a home trust. Okay, so everybody, we're going to create a home trust. So click on home and drag it into initial gifts. And up comes the dialog box for creating this gift. Now we want to create a trust for them. So we're going to click on the trust button as opposed to the absolute button. Now let's just say that we want to create a trust just for Jonathan's kids for the home, not Michaela. We could use a class gift for that. So beneficiaries. Now the class won't show up here unless you scroll down because this is people. But if you keep scrolling down, it'll show up as a class. You can also just type in children and it'll automatically come up. and then click on it, and there we go. So the children are going to be the beneficiary of the trust. Who can use it? Well, let's say the children can use it. Let's assume the trustees are the same as the executors for the home trust. So you don't have to change that. Now, everybody, let's create this trust that's going to terminate on one of two things. One, either the kids all turn 25, or the trustee says it's time to get out of this house, kids. Okay, so that's done through the termination of use button. So termination of use, click add. Age of beneficiary is going to be one of the terminations, and we're going to say age 25. And you have a choice. You could say either when one beneficiary hits 25 or when all of them hit 25. So let's do it when the last hits 25. So click on that button and say done. But we have another termination of use. We have, if the trustee thinks it's a good idea to sell it, we're going to terminate the use. So let's go add and pick trustee discretion. Okay. And you can pick the earlier or the latest. It makes no sense to make it the latest. You would do it the earliest, right? So that's that. Conditions are only if you've got something you want to add. It's a manual field. Then we get down to the expenses. The way this works, you'll see estates on the right and the beneficiaries are on the left. So you can apportion who's going to pay what expenses between the estate and the beneficiary. You could say, I want the beneficiaries to pay all of the expenses, or I want the estate to pay all of the expenses. So try that, just try clicking between those. And you can also pick a specific asset and drag it and apportion it between the two. So here we had the estate paying 50% of the property tax and the beneficiaries paying the other. Well, in this case, it's unlikely we would do that, but do that. So let's have the estate paying all of the expenses. And where is it going to come from? Well, we could have it paid from the residue, or we could create a separate fund. Let's just create a separate fund. So we go separate fund, and we have to add a provision to that. And what we typically do, what I would typically do is say it's amount, and I either pick an amount, or I'd leave it to the trustee to pick an amount of that separate fund to pay the expenses. So I'm just going to do that one more time. So I picked separate fund from how the estate is going to pay. Then I clicked provisions, add. Then I picked amount. Then I picked trustee's discretion, done. Okay. Now, if I want this provision to, or the trustee to be able to buy a replacement property, et cetera, then I'd click on the replacement. And I could either say, you need the consent of the beneficiaries to buy a replacement property, or you don't. And I can say, what's going to happen? So to the excess proceeds. So if they sell the house for $1 million, but buy a smaller house for 500,000, what's going to happen with the excess 500,000? Typically, you'd want it to go to the residue, but you can also designate how that's to be divided. And the last thing I'm going to show you on this is the option to purchase. So everyone click on option to purchase. So let's just go through that. So everybody should have this dialog box, option to purchase dialog box, open. And if anybody's having problems, send me a note, and I will go back or need clarify something. So resolution, this is if more than one person wants to buy it. So the options here are equally, an order of priority, or random selection. We're building a few additional ones in there as well, but those are the three we have. The order of priority only works if you're using a named people. So if the client says to you, oh, I want to have my kids, but I want an order of priority, then you have to name the kids specifically. Otherwise, you can't put the priority in because it's just a class gift. So let's just go with the simple one, which is equal tenants in common if more than one of them wants to buy it. Let's assume the purchase price is going to be the fair market value. You could pick other options. You could say, I want to set the price for them to buy it. Discount for partial interest. If they only own, let's say you're giving an option to purchase to somebody and you only own 25% of it. The question is, when you're valuing it, should you discount the value because you only own a partial interest? That's what that is. Let's not worry about that. Appraisals. So let's just leave appraisals as the determination for value. And how many? So you can insert, let's say 2. And then it will ask you how you're going to resolve the values. Is it going to be an average? That's typically what I pick. And who's going to pay for those valuations? Is it going to come out of the residue? Is it going to come from the expense fund? Is the beneficiary going to pay, or something else? So I typically have it out of the residue. Next thing is, let's put in a discount for notional commission of, let's say, 5%. Okay. Now the next thing was, should we give the beneficiaries the option to get their own appraisal? We can build that in, and we can build in the timing for them to get their own appraisal. So they have to get it within 30 days. Okay. And I would probably change that to make it a small w, because it's going to come in as a small w. And who's paying it? Well, I'm going to make the beneficiary pay that if they want to get their own. So that's how you would build that in. Okay. The next sections, and I'm just going to let you get organized, but the next section is the timing. So how quickly do they have to exercise the option after getting the purchase price, and how quickly do they have to close? That's what the timing is. So let's say they've got 10 days to decide whether they want to buy it, and then they've got, let's say another 10 days to close. Okay. And if they buy from the estate, it's just going to go into the residue. That's the option we've picked, but you have other options. You can make a specific distribution of that. But let's just pick residue and go save. And go back to the button that says add asset gifts, and we've got to put the gift over. So if they're not alive, then we're going to just have it go to the residue. So that's the gift over tab at the very bottom of the add asset gift, add it to the residue. And then you can add the actual gift, add. And now we've created a home trust. Anybody have any issues with that? And if so? So yes, so if I synced right now, it would put this information in. So anytime I sync, it's going to replace, the sync button is up here, Samantha Smith. So if I want Samantha Smith to be a mirror image of Jonathan Smith, I could do the sync. Okay, and as long as they both had the same assets, the initial gifts would appear. If they have different assets, they won't appear. So if she didn't own the home, then that wouldn't appear as a gift. You can't sync an asset that doesn't exist in the other person. Okay. So now let's go down to give away the residue. So click the balance of the estate, the black bar, and up comes the balance of the estate. Now we're going to do something a little bit more fancy. We're going to split it. And Jonathan wants to do it this way. He wants to divide it 50% between two of his kids. Well, let's make it different. Let's do this. So the instructions are, I want to do it 1/3 to each of the kids. Okay, except that, remember, one of the kids is disabled. So we're going to want to do something special for that. So let's add a segment, because that's how we divide it into percentages. So the idea of a segment is a percentage. So we're going to add a segment. It's segment 1. Just leave the name the same. I would do that because that's how it's going to appear in the will. The percentage is going to be 33.3. And we're going to add. Okay, that's how we're going to do 1/3. Okay. Now, so all we've done by doing that is we've created a segment for 33%. We haven't done anything with that 33.3%. So we want to go add gift. All right, so everybody should have the add gift dialog box up. Okay. And now, who's the beneficiary of this? Well, first one is Cleo. Okay, so everyone picks Cleo. And let's do a trust for Cleo. So click on trust. Then you have the amount. You'll see percentage. You could make it an amount, but we're dealing with the balance of the estate. So in this case, we want to give away this entire segment. So this is the percentage of the entire segment. The segment itself is only 1/3, but we're giving away 100% of the 1/3. That's what this number means. We're going to have the same executors as trustees, or same trustees as executors. The duration. Let's say we're going to hold it until Cleo hits 30. So that's the duration. So we click add, age, done. Everybody do that? So you're in duration, you go add, age of beneficiary, and I'll just try that one more time just so everyone can see it. So duration, add, age of beneficiary, and then put in the age. Hit done. Okay. That is going to be the only duration that we're going to need. Okay. When would it not, somebody asked, when would the percentage of segment not be 100%? Well, let's say I want to divide this 1/3 between 5 different people, each getting 20% of that 1/3. That's how you do that. So you can carve down a segment into smaller portions as well. That's what the percentage of segment would be. Mandatory payments. Let's add a stage distribution in here. Okay, that's where you'd find stage distributions under mandatory payments. Okay, so click the add under mandatory payments, and let's pick staged lump sums at certain ages. That's your stage distribution, and you'll click that and you'll add a stage. So I don't know, pick a stage. Let's say age 21. So in the age button, you'll pick 21. You have a choice. You could do a fixed amount at 21, a percentage, or a combination. That is the greater or lesser of 50,000 and 10% or something like that. Typically, I would use a percentage. And let's just say we're going to give them 25% at 21. And I will talk about how you want to give them a month, an amount per month. But this is a stage distribution. So we'll go done. And you can add multiple stages if you want. Here's what I remind you. You do not have to put and do not put the last age. So the duration is 25. We know they're going to get the balance at 25. That's what duration means. So you don't put the duration age. Like I don't put then add a stage 25 percentage. I do not do this, just so you know. You don't do that because that is implicit when you pick the duration of 25, okay? So you should only have the stages that are interim distributions here, okay? Okay. Now let's say we wanted to also give them a certain amount per year, okay? Let's do that. So mandatory payments, because it's mandatory, we're gonna go add, and you're gonna pick fixed annual amounts. Now, if it's even though your client might say, I want to pay, you know, $1,000 a month, you've got to sort of, the way we would typically do it is an annual amount that's divided, paid out monthly. So fixed annual amount, click on that, and you can put the amount that you want to do per year. So if it's, let's say you were giving $1,000 per month, so that would be $12,000 a year. You can index that gift. So you can say, look, whatever that amount is when this beneficiary starts receiving it, in today's dollars, it's 12,000. If it, because of inflation, it's now 14,000, then that's what they're going to get, 14,000. That's the impact of indexing any kind of gift, okay? And you can say, when is that going to start? Well, I only want it to start on a condition. So I only want it to start when they hit, for example, age 21, okay? I can do that. That's the condition. Or I can add a different kind of condition. I could say, you know, the first anniversary of an event, or the first anniversary after my death, or whatever you want. And you would just type it in the way you want it to appear in the will. First anniversary of my death is how you'd want it to appear in the will. Okay. And then just go done. Now it's going to ask me, do I want the earlier, the latest of those? So you got to pick that. I'll get to the question about indexing in a second. Now you can also terminate that. So you can say, you know, you get it starting at age 21, but when you hit 23, it stops. That would be under termination. Or let's say I say, look, if you're insolvent, I don't want you to get this anymore. So I'd go a suspension event. I could say, if you become insolvent, it's going to stop that payment. Okay. All of these things, indexing, insolvency, those are all defined once in the will, once you pick that as an option. And the indexing is based on CPI. It's kind of the standard indexing we use. So now you have this gift that's going, an annual gift of $12,000 a year. Then the next tab is discretionary payments. So those are whether they're limited or unlimited. You can, typically you'd say unlimited discretion, but you can create all kind of limited discretions. And I won't talk about that now because it's less commonly used. And the gift over. So who do I want this to go to? Well, I want it to go to their issue. So the beneficiary's issue first, but you got to keep going because they might not have issue alive. So you go add, then I want it to go to the client's issue, or I could have it go to the other segments. whatever you want to pick. And then I'm finished that gift. And that's how it should appear. And you go add. And you should see on your screen a pie chart that shows that you've given away a third of the estate. And that you've given away 100%. The inner circle is that segment. So I've given away 100% of that segment of the green segment. Now to go back and create another segment, and I'm just going to create one more, go to segments. And then I want to, then I want to clone that same segment, okay? So I want to create the same gift for somebody else, the exact same terms. What I'd do is I'd say clone. So those 3 dots beside the segment, I'd go clone, clone. Because this one, I want to be exactly the same, except I want it for Dave. So what I would do is edit the name of the segment by clicking the 3 dots, segment 1 copy. I want to call it something else. I want to call it segment 2. So let's just do that. It's also going to be for 33.3%. And I'm going to save it. Then I'm going to go into that segment by clicking on the bar that says segment 2. I'll click on it. And you'll see Cleo is named as the beneficiary. Why? Because it cloned it exactly. So I need to go in there, change that from Cleo to Dave. But the same terms. Okay. Now, if I want to change it slightly, I could do that, of course. But what it does is it just clones the exact same gift. So now we've got 2 segments. And you say to me, well, there's 33.4% remaining. Don't worry about that. What you want to do, you're treating these people equally. So it's going to be 33.3 each. And the program knows that that's 100%, basically. It's a third, a third, a third. So let's add that last segment. Now this one's going to be different because this is going to be a Henson Trust. So it's going to say percentage 33.3. You want to change that. And go add. Okay. So again, we've got to create this gift now. And this is the one for Michaela, who I believe is disabled. So we're not going to want an absolute gift. We're going to want a trust. We're going to do a Henson Trust. So we pick the beneficiary. It's Michaela. Okay. We're giving 100% of that to Michaela. And we have the duration. Now for a Henson Trust, the duration you're going to want is the death. You want it to last for the lifetime. You'll have no mandatory payments, right? That's the key to a Henson Trust, that there are no mandatory payments. And I would typically leave unlimited discretion to the trustee for a Henson Trust. And then what I would say is I want it to go to Michaela's issue if she has any when she dies. That's the gift over. And then if she didn't have any, to my other issue. So you can add 2 gift overs. And then go add. And now I have given away, see there's nothing remaining. So the key there, just so you know, is if you want everyone to get the same amount, make sure that the segments are all the same amount. Okay, 33.3%. So that's how we've created that Henson Trust. And if we go back, we just want to go back to the people to make sure that we marked Michaela as disabled. Let's go to special Michaela. We double click on her. Up she pops. We click on special circumstances down there. And yes, she's the one who's disabled. We check that off. That's great. Okay. So now we've planned for those 2 scenarios. You would then go to the 3rd scenario and plan for that scenario. So there are pre-made gifts in the macros, or you can add your 3rd gift if you want. We're not going to bother with that. What I'm going to do at this point, though, is I'm going to check to see if I've missed anything. What happens to the 0.1%? Somebody asked about the 33.3. Remember, it's going to use floating shares. So it's going to say, I want 33.3 shares to go to one person, 33.3 shares to go to the other, and 33.3 shares to go to the third. Well, that's a third, a third, a third, because it doesn't have to add up to 100. We're not using percentages. So that's the way we do with that. And then at least the client understands it's akin to percentages from their point of view, even though it's not really. Then let's all go to the Advisor Alerts tab. So that's top right corner. There's those 3 little buttons. It's the one with the exclamation point. Everybody go there. And let's see what it's warning us about. So the first thing it's warning us about is that the principal residence exemption won't apply post-death in the descendants only scenario. Why? Because we've got a trust for kids past age 18. Okay, so not that you're going to do anything different, but just to warn the client. Next thing, it sees that you've got a disabled beneficiary, that's Michaela, and you have an RRSP, and so it's just warning you, maybe you want to think about using an RDSP, or using an having it go to her and using an RDSP. It's reminding you to get the prior wills from the client and other documents. Now it knows that we've got young kids here, and it's saying, are you sure there's no RESP? I mean, is the client sure that they don't have an RESP? Because that's often an asset that I forgot to ask about if they didn't list it. And so this just reminds me, based on the fact that they're young kids, that that an RSP, just confirm that there isn't an RESP. And lastly, warning about multiple wills as an option. So that's what the advisor alerts. Now I want to make a couple of notes, because the client has told me a few things that I want to remember and I want the client to remember. So I click on the middle button at the top right corner. And these notes are available to the client. So you would not put in something like, this client is driving me crazy, because the client will see this. So I typically do this: client to provide shareholder agreement, right? Add. These are all date stamped, so you can track when they were made. Jordy to do title search. Okay, so I can keep lists. I can also keep notes, whatever, but this becomes part of the record. Okay, that's that middle button there, notes. You can't edit notes, by the way. You can only just remove them and add them in. At some point, maybe we'll get to that point. So the last thing we're going to deal with, let's just see, we're doing okay for time, is appointments. So let's all add an executor here. So click on the appointments tab on the left, and up comes appointees. And click add, and let's add a primary. So pick somebody from the family tree by clicking on that button. Up comes the family tree, and I'm going to pick Joe Exotic to be the primary executor. So there are no conditions. He's going to act as the first executor, and I'm going to click add. I can add more than one primary, as long as I don't put a condition on. They're going to be a primary executor. Now let me add an alternate. Okay, so I go back, add appointee. Let me pick somebody else. So let me pick BMO as an alternate. Okay, so because they're automatically in there, and I'm going to say BMO can only act, and I'm going to click on the condition tab. Okay, so you can see there's no condition. A condition if the prior executor can't act. The second option, if any cannot act, that's if I had appointed 2 primaries, and now I wanted BMO to act in case of either of them. The first one is if both of them can't act. For example, if I had more than one person. So I'm going to pick this case, and up comes the person that you want to replace here. And so BMO is going to act if Joe can't. Okay. I'm going to just show you how to add a third. Let's say BMO can't act. I'm going to appoint one more, Idiot Jones, and I'm going to go to condition. So everyone go to add Idiot Jones and go to condition. And I only want Idiot Jones to act if BMO can't act. So I just go if all cannot act, and you'll see what's specified. Specified is Joe, because what it's giving us the option is Idiot can act with BMO if Joe can't act, but we don't want that. We want Idiot to act if both Joe can't act and then BMO can't act, because they're one after another. So I'll specify, I'll get rid of Joe, and I'll say BMO. I don't have to put Joe in there because BMO is going to only act if Joe can't act. Okay, so I'm going to pick Idiot if BMO can't act. And now you can see Joe's appointed, then BMO, then Idiot. Okay, that's how you do that. And you could add more than one and all of that kind of stuff. Just quickly, I'm going to go to the Provisions tab. So if you can go to the left and click on Provisions, this is where we have some standard provisions. By the way, later tonight, we're putting in new provisions for multiple wills as to what assets you're going to include in your multiple wills, so you don't have to do that manually. So the first thing is funeral arrangements. So if the client wants funeral arranged, arrangements, then you can just continue to type in here, desire that my body be cremated, period. And that's how it's going to appear in the will. If the client didn't want anything to appear in the will, no funeral arrangements, just delete the whole thing. And now that section won't appear. Okay. Future members, let's say you ask the client, are you going to have any more children? And they say, yeah, well, there's a chance. So then you would include future children there. If not, you wouldn't. And that will all tie into the definitions. All of these tie into the definitions of those classes. We have class restrictions. The trust for beneficiaries under a certain age, the draft will come out with a standard wording for beneficiaries who are under a certain age and trust for them. What I typically do is I have specific provisions for the children and then use this for any more remote issue, like grandchildren who might inherit or nieces and nephews who might inherit while under 25. So that's the provisions tab. So that's how you do it. Now I just want to show you guys the summaries. So on the top right button, I'd like everybody to generate a graphic summary. So you're going to click the farthest right button, the download button, and go to summaries, scroll over and click on scenarios graphic for the summary. And that's just a PDF. Okay. And you click on that and you can open it on your screen and show the client, here's what your will is going to look like. So that's the impact of that. And it breaks it down. Remember, we were doing a third to Cleo, a third to Dave, and a third to Michaela, and they were all in different trusts, right? We continue to modify this graphic summary to add more detail. We have to balance it between not crowding things and adding detail. So we're going to continue to do that. So that's that. If you go back to eState Planner, because you probably have open the actual document, so go back to eState Planner, just click on your tab in Google or whatever you're using, and let's create, that's how you create the summaries. Let's create a document, so click on Documents, and you can pick, the one to pick is Single Will System as the template, okay? So you're gonna generate the will by clicking on Single Will, and then clicking Export. It'll confirm, first of all, it'll ask you if you want to pay the $75. Of course, there's no charge right now, but that's the first time you're going to receive a charge. It's going to warn you and make sure you want to still incur that charge. Then you'll click the two boxes that say I'm a lawyer or I'm supervised by a lawyer, and it's a draft and it's my responsibility to review it. So I go Export, and it will take about a minute for it to generate. And what we're releasing tonight, because of the issue of signing wills or sending them out for execution by people while you're not in the room, we're adding witness circles to all of the documents so that it's easier to say, okay, now put your initials in the first circle at the bottom right. So we've done that. We've added some more support for multiple wills and definitions. That's going to come out later tonight as well. So there's some features that we're releasing to try to help people with getting these wills executed on the side. Anybody have a question before we go through in the last 5 minutes the template? Jordy, when you're working through this with the client and they see your screen, how do you conceal your other clients' names from the client list when you first log in? Don't share the screen until what I do is I don't have my screen share on until or not plugged in. If you're using a monitor, don't plug it in until you've got the client up there, because there's no way to block them out. So that's what I do. I just don't plug it in until it's up and running. So, so everybody should be generating, and it should be pretty much done. And so I just want to briefly go through that. I'm going to just share it on my screen, but everybody should have it. Now, you'll see a button that says Enable Editing. I want everybody, you should click that because you're going to want to edit it. And then it's going to ask you whether you want to update these fields. And the answer is yes. Okay, so you want to click the yes button, because what that does is it links all the paragraphs together. And so if there's references to certain paragraphs, it links them all together. And there's the document. And we'll have another tutorial session on sort of working through the document. We continue to refine it so that there's less and less for you to have to change in the document once it's generated. But for example, you'll see the definition, if you did make that, you remember that trust that terminated, the annual payments terminated on solvency? Well, because it knew that, it included a definition of solvent in there. So, you know, there's that sort of thinking along with you. The children definition, it doesn't include future children because we didn't click off future children, okay? So that's why, you know, provisions template that has fewer definitions in it, but it's still going to include the definitions that are required based on the terms of the will. So we'll get rid of all the sort of standard ones that, you know, if you don't want them, you don't have to have per stirpes defined, because, you know, or you don't have to have, you know, unable or unwilling defined necessarily. I prefer to have it, but so there's a simpler template if you want to use that one. So this is the way this drafted. If you look at the appointments, I appoint Joe, and then if Joe can't act, BMO, and then should BMO not be unable to act, idiot. So that's how that's going. The personal effects is a clause right now, is the only major clause that you have to amend each time. So we have a couple of choices. We have sort of a discretionary choice, which is the first part, or after the or is a lottery system. So, and we have different options as to whether you want to have them pay for it and things like that. Happy to answer any questions on that as we go, but that is not going to be the case for much longer, because you're going to have a box, a dialog box. When you add personal effects in, it's going to ask you, okay, do you want this discretion? Do you want it by lottery? Do you want it as they agree? You know, those kinds of things. It knows that there are people under 18, so you know, and here's the house trust. So it's just highlighting, do you want to include future houses as well? And do you want to put in a pin, things like that. So I do want to open the floor up to questions, but I do also want to let people go. There's, again, certain things that you just have to, you know, I want you to make the decision on your own rather than having the computer figure it out for you. So there's a footnote for each of these things that are highlighted for you to just consider. Remember as well that before you finalize everything, you should update the field codes. How do you do that? Well, you select all. For me, on using Office, it's Control Shift and the number 5 in the keypad will highlight everything. That's what you want. You want the whole thing selected. So you're looking for a function called Select Add. And then if you right-click and click Update Field, it will automatically make sure that the numbering is right. Because if you delete a paragraph here, for example, it's going to change the paragraph numbers. So it's a good idea before you print anything else that you update the field codes. Okay. Questions? Anybody want to jump on and ask a question sorry, the last thing. Sure, I'll do that. So the point I'm making here is updating field codes. And I'm trying to figure out where the select all button is. I think it's view, but it could be not. If anybody knows, maybe just shout it out. But you're looking basically for select all. And the way I do it on Microsoft Word is Control Shift 5. That's how you highlight everything. That's select all. And then right click with your mouse button, update field. And that will automatically update it. Just on the point of RSPs, unlike life insurance, you don't have to refer to the policy, the RSP account number in your designations. In insurance, you do. How do you update field codes from Chrome? Well, it's not in Chrome. You're updating the field codes in Word. It's Word that you're updating. And let's just see. I think it's okay. So it's the home button. Select. There's a button that says Select All. Control A is what should do it in Word. Control A. Does everyone see that? Select all. And then once everything's selected, so select all, and then right click, update field code. Okay. So thanks everybody. Appreciate it. Appreciate your interest in eState. We're making it, we're improving it all the time. and hoping to make it better for you guys. Please give us your feedback, and don't forget you can book a tutorial anytime, even if you've had 5 tutorials. Book another one with us if you're having any problems, or shoot us a quick message. And the other thing is, I just want to highlight a couple of things before anybody leaves. Estate Planner, the website, has a support on the main, and if you go to support, there's answers to all kinds of questions about how do you make certain kinds of gifts, how do you create cash legacies. So you can go there if you like, but again, you can also click this right button down here on the web page and just send us a question, and we'll start chatting with you, and we'll pop up and we can have a live conversation. And I don't know how to get rid of it, I guess like that. So that's how it goes. Any questions that I didn't cover, more technical questions, or just even for basic? Please, whatever you do, don't sit there the first time you get it and like just think, oh my God, I don't know where to start. Like jump on a call with us, a Zoom call, and we'll take you through it. And we don't want you wasting your time. So if you do this a few times, if you practice a few times, you'll find it get better and better. Does anybody have that experience? Has anybody, maybe I'm going to unmute everybody and just say, if anybody would like to chime in about how the tutorials have helped, or how long it took you guys to get a little more used to it. I know I'm never supposed to ask a question that I don't know the answer to, but how are people finding that?
Tutorials are great, and Michaela's help is great.
Great. And it takes, I would say, 3 to 4 or 5 clients till you're really moving along faster. And the more you practice, if you have any free time, and right now, this is, what we're hoping is that people, if they do have any free time, once things settle down a little bit, that they'll invest an hour in it and really learn to use it.
About links to the videos from the Estate Planner.
Yeah, you can go to our YouTube channel. It should just be Estate Planner.
Feel free to do that. I know the tutorials are really well received, and we're very patient. Michaela's way more patient. She's the one who's doing them. Thomas as well, and we'll take you through it. We don't want you wasting time. So don't sit there thinking, I don't know. I'm not going to do this because I don't know how to do it. We're here to do that. Like, we have lawyers who, we have 6, 8, 10 tutorials just with different questions. They're not all that long, but you can be on for as long as you want, 5 minutes or longer, as long as you want.